live. Hello. Oh, goodness. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. I hope your week was good. I hope your day was good. I hope that you're able to breathe deeply and take some time for yourself tonight and the rest of the weekend, because I am surely in need of that. Now, I had anticipated doing this live, and I was like, you know what? I made a commitment to myself at the beginning of I was going to say at the beginning of the school year. At the beginning of the year, I made a commitment to myself. And I said, I really enjoy making my YouTube content. And it used to be focused on traveling and doing everything with the van, but now I've kind of expanded it to every other facet of my life, including the studio space, my art making process, all the things. But one thing that I find is that my art making process is so restricted. I find myself like thinking too much about the process in itself. And so today I was like, the theme is going to be resisting perfection. And I was like, I'm just going to come online and do this thing and make artwork. But then I was like, you know what? No, I am a registered art therapist. I have my master's in art therapy. I'm a registered art therapist in the state of Florida. I'm an art therapist in the public school system doing art with students every day. And something that I am constantly saying to the students and to the other adults that I work with who help me work with these students is that it's not about the artwork that they're making. It's more about the process of them learning how to use the materials, learning how to communicate their needs and their desires for the artwork that they're making or the artwork that they don't want to make at all. It's more about the process. It's not about what it looks like. We're just here to kind of go with the flow and see what happens. And I find that I use that in my practice at work, but when it comes to my own art making process here at home, I still get really hung up in whether things look good or whether I'm doing a good job. And one thing that I've been focused on lately is this idea of being pleased in any given moment or in any given space of the artwork that I'm making. All of that being said, when it comes to being pleased, when it comes to going with the flow, when it comes to practicing what I preach, I wanted to give myself a little exercise today. I wanted to therapize myself today and kind of challenge myself to let go of this idea of perfection, let go of this idea that my artwork has to be made in a certain way or look a certain way or make sense for the artwork prior to or make sense for everything that I made in years past that people know me for, and just do the artwork, make the artwork. And even if it sucks, even if I don't like it in the end, the process of releasing and letting go and playing with the materials and seeing what happens is what really matters. So, to, practice what I preach and to talk about these things or to do what I'm talking about, I am going to challenge myself to 4 different artworks. I'm going to work on these 4 papers at the same time. And I'm going to use 5 different materials. And I'm going to work for 10 minutes with each material. So I'm going to start with pencil, and with a pencil, I'm going to draw for 10 minutes total on all 4 of these papers and see what I come up with. And then at the end of the 10 minutes, I'm switching to markers. At the end of those 10 minutes, I'm going to switch to the next material, and so on and so forth. I'm going to use 5 materials, 10 minutes with each material, and I'm just going to go with the flow and see what happens and try not to think too hard about it, because that's my problem, is thinking too hard about it. Okay? Does anyone relate? please let me know, because I love, oh, I do not need the flash. I just wanted to take a picture. I do not, shooting content. I do not love, what was I even saying? Brain blank. Anyways, I'm gonna get my materials. I'm doing 5 materials, 10 minutes each. Let me write this out. Listen, I just feel like I need to do myself a favor and loosen up a bit, okay? I do so much for other people in the creative realm. You know, I'm an art educator, I'm an art therapist. I do so much like encouragement on a daily basis when it comes to my students' art practice. And then I get home and just don't have it for myself. And that's just not okay. Not okay. Like, it's unsustainable for me to give it to other people and not give it to myself. All right, 5 materials. I'm gonna start with pencil. We're gonna go from the most restrictive to the least restrictive, or something like that. So I'm gonna start with pencil, then I'm gonna go to marker, and then crayon, and then we're gonna do gouache paint, and then on top of the gouache paint, we're gonna do oil pastels, and we're gonna see what happens with that. Now, if you have art materials at home and you're here watching with me and you're, you know, seeing what's going on over here in my world, I suggest you get your art materials out too and you participate, because maybe we all need a little bit of we all need a little exercise and release on this Friday evening, and maybe a little scribbling and chatting and seeing what the heck comes out of our brains with an art material could be helpful. Now, I will say I don't like pencil. It's been a very long time since I made any sort of artwork starting with pencil. Or I guess that's not true, because I draw the grid lines and stuff before I paint, and I draw out the figures, so it's not necessarily true, but whatever. I'm starting with a pencil. Or should I start with pen? Pencil. Pen? I like the pen better. I love a good pen. I'm starting with pen. I changed my mind. All right. Let's see. Pen. Let me grab my markers. I got my crayons. I have a simple, small box of crayons, but it'll do. I've got my oil pastels here, classics. Literally only one of these has been used. That's actually kind of sad. I don't even know how long I've had these. It just kind of feels like when it comes to being restrictive in my process of painting and needing things to look a certain way at any given certain time, it's also very restrictive in the material use. Like, I have so many options. There's so many options for material use, but I always stick to the basics. I feel almost fearful of branching out and trying new things and seeing how they play with each other. And so I really want this to just be like an exercise in that. So I'm hoping that you can see the process. I feel like I need to move some of these paint bottles from some of my stuff. I'm working on so many different projects at the same time that I've got so many different things that I want to do. Let me move you closer. Okay. This is where we're at. Are we ready? All right, I gotta set my timer. We're doing 10 minutes each material, and we're gonna see what happens. I'm sticking to it. All right. 10 minutes on the timer. I'm nervous, but that's part of the process. I'm also just like really curious to see what happens. Part of me feels like I don't know. I need to do this more often. I need to just play with the paper. I remember in high school, one of my art teachers, shout out to Hillary Hogue, always said, brought up this idea of painting loosely. And I feel like I never really understood it at the time. Like I was such a detail-oriented and like perfectionistic artist. I needed everything to look a certain way to feel satisfied with it. And everything was so tight and small. Mind you, like my favorite paintbrush ever is this tiny little thing right here. So like, how could you possibly paint loosely with something so tiny that barely holds any paint at all, right? And I've probably had this brush since high school. But she always brought up painting loosely, and I never understood that concept. I always struggled with the idea of the artwork that I was making not being exactly the way that I want it to be. And honestly, that probably contributed to the burnout that I had and what led me to not going to art school. I don't know, I just wasn't satisfied with the work that I was making, partly because of deadlines that I didn't feel comfortable meeting because I wasn't enjoying the artwork that I was making, and I was getting good grades, but that didn't even really matter because the artwork didn't feel good to me. But here I am, an art educator, an art therapist, still struggling with being loose in the process, with accepting the process, with allowing the process to give way for the imagery that's being created. Also, the other thing is like, I always got so caught up in being like creating an artwork that was exactly the way I imagined it, and if it wasn't, I was never satisfied. But I find lately that I'm having visions for artwork, and then when I go to do them, it's not exactly how I imagine it, or how I imagine it is like very it's cloudy. Like I can't quite see it exactly. I can get the essence of it. I can feel the energy of it, but it's not a clear image. And so I do the artwork, I do the painting, and I take a step back and I look at it, and I wouldn't necessarily call it finished, but it holds an image that feels like it can stand by itself without explanation. like there are subtleties that can be interpreted in many different ways, and I don't have to paint an exact replica of a body, of a placenta, of a bird, of a tree for somebody to get it, for me to get it, for me to be happy with it. It can just kind of be a color, it can be a texture, it can be layers of paint and different materials. It doesn't have to be overt in its meaning or its imagery. And I'm starting to appreciate that. It's all in practice. It's all practice. Some days I really appreciate it, and some days I sit and wonder, should I go back and add more to that painting? Should I add a little bit more to that to make it feel finished, to make it look finished? And then I have to sit with myself and determine, is that like a valid thought? Is that a valid feeling to have about my work? Should I consider going back and adding more to it? Or should I simply leave it alone because I felt like I could leave it alone from the get-go? It's just a continuous conversation. Continuous conversation with myself about the work that I'm creating. Better to be talking about it and making it than not. Much better. In my opinion. In my opinion. Got 2 minutes on the clock, 3 minutes. There's 1, boom. There's 2, boom. 3, boom. 4, boom. I am really glad that I chose to go with pen instead of pencil. I don't know why I was considering pencil in the first place. I think I was thinking colored pencil. Originally thinking colored pencil. That's alright. I prefer the pen. I've been enjoying drawing with pen at work. I have several students in the same class that don't necessarily like to draw things themselves, but they enjoy telling me what they want me to draw and then coloring the picture that I draw for them. And sometimes I feel very proud and happy about what it is that they've requested from me and what it is that I end up drawing. And other times I'm like, dude, this is just completely not accurate at all. You're asking me to draw you, like, today I was asked to draw a horse and I did not like the horse that I drew. And it could have been that they didn't like it either, or they were just having their own behavioral issues. They were kind of having their own moment and they ripped the paper in half and gave it back to me. And I should add that I work with students that are that have special needs. So I have students on the autism spectrum. I have students that are autism, different medical conditions. emotional behavioral issues. Um, I have students that are nonverbal. I have students that use communication devices. I have students that are very much verbal or in job training and can have like, regular full on conversations and whatnot. And this particular student uses sign language, is on the autism spectrum, and ah! All right, pen is finished. But this student typically tells me what he wants to draw. We have him verbally express what it is and then also use sign language to tell me, to improve his communication skills amongst everything else. And so he'll tell me what he wants to draw, and sometimes I draw it really well and he likes it and he colors it and, gives it back to me, tells me the next thing. And sometimes he's just not about it, rips the paper in multiple pieces, hands it back to me, and we try again. Or not, because sometimes it's a destructive thing and it's not appropriate behavior. But I have another student who is really stuck on dinosaurs, and we have a dinosaur book in the class, and so I drew him a dinosaur the other day and he colored it. It took him several days to color it, and it's just been so fun. Here. So he went through the dinosaur book, found the dinosaur he wanted me to draw. I did my best to draw it based on what I saw in the book, and then he took several days to color it. So that's his dinosaur there. I love it so much. And he's so precise. Like, he'll outline the entire line drawing and then fill it in with color. And okay, I'm not going to cheat and finish this little drawing because this person has no face and it's really kind of a strange frog-like body. I don't like that. It's giving frog, hybrid, human, weird. I don't know. But I'm not going to cheat and add to it as much as I want to, because I don't like that. And this is part of the process, right? It's like I'm outwardly expressing that I don't like it and I want to finish it. I want to add a face. I want to add hair. I want to like fix it. But I'm supposed to be resisting perfection. This is the exercise. This is what I'm doing. Keep going, Jasmine. Okay. The next 10 minutes, I'm going to be using marker. Marker. 10 minutes starting. Okay. Brown, brown, brown. Okay. I need like a tester paper. I love the ease of adding color with the marker. Yes. I'm already starting to see how this particular little sketch is informed by a prior idea or like a prior vision, a vision that I've already had and started to express on a canvas. I have a canvas back there that I've done the wash on, and I have an idea for what it is that I wanted to, to what I'm trying to portray is what I'm trying to say in that painting. And I can see how this little drawing is informed by that. I can also see, I'm conscious of the fact that I am indeed loosening up and that the process is moving. The process is moving, it's happening. That is not the same color. That is not the same color. I hate when that happens with markers where it doesn't match. The color of the plastic of the marker doesn't match with the ink. Greens, greens, greens. I've been thinking a lot about this, and I had the idea of actually implementing like a daily art exercise journal at school with my students. And every day we just do something like this. We take 10 minutes, boom, pick a material, boom, 10 minutes in the sketchbook, no real long thought about it. And just kind of seeing what happens, and then doing it every day over the course of the school year and seeing what happens, what might reveal itself to us. I really like that idea of doing it for myself, but I think that I have a couple groups of students that would really benefit from that sort of expression, like not necessarily talking, right? Like they don't have to talk. They're not necessarily required to follow any direction of mine, because oftentimes I present them with different projects and we use different materials, and there's an expectation of what they are supposed to be creating based on the lesson plans that I've created and what we're taking inspiration from. And typically what I do is I pick an artist and I introduce the artist and their work and the materials they use and the technique, and then I present different activities, different materials to the students to try and inspire their own work. But the process of simply just picking a single material, having a single piece of paper, and making something without that active thought. Because a lot of times, and I may be projecting, I may be just kind of expressing myself, and I may be projecting, but actively thinking about what it is I'm making is what leads to me becoming restrictive. Like if I think too much about it, then I find myself going down a path of like, that's my thought, that's my idea, but what if I can't execute? What if, I think about this idea and I have this idea and I want it to look this way and I want it to feel this way, but I can't quite get it. What is that going to look like and feel like if I can't do it the way that I want to? And then there's the possibility of like being disappointed and being anxious and being dissatisfied and being unhappy. And then I get into a space of like, well, I want to avoid feeling those things. I want to avoid feeling any way negatively about myself, about my work. I don't want to feel that way, so I'm just not going to do the thing that I think might make me feel that way. Which is just so limiting. So limiting. And I don't want to limit myself anymore. I don't want to limit myself anymore. I have 50 seconds. Oh no. Why is this so dark? Why is this light green so dark? That is not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted at all. Seven seconds. Literally scribbling. Alright, it's starting to rain too. It is raining quite hard. Okay, here is what I've got so far. I've done pen, 10 minutes of pen, 10 minutes of marker. This is where we're at. This is the one I just got done scribbling. Oh goodness. What are you seeing here? I'm kind of envisioning, I see onions. I see vulvas, not gonna lie. I see eggs. I see like flowers opening, when like, or like, you ever planted a seed and that when the sprout first comes up out of the ground, sometimes the seed still envelops the leaves and it's like clamped on top and the leaves are trying to like break open the seed pod. That's kind of what I'm seeing here. Then there's this one. What are you seeing? What am I seeing? It's giving underwater. It's giving like radar, sonar, starfish, blastocyst. What's a blastocyst? Blastocyst? Is that a term? Blastocyst? Let me Google. Sometimes words just come to me and it seems right, feels right, but I have to Google to see where in my brain this is coming from. A blastocyst is a specialized stage in early mammalian embryonic development, forming about 5 to 6 days after fertilization, when a fertilized egg undergoes several cell divisions. A blastocyst is a hollow ball of cells consisting of an inner cell mass, which will become the embryo, and an outer layer of cells called the traphectoderm, which will eventually form the placenta. The blastocyst also contains a fluid-filled cavity called the blastocoel. So that's the word that came to me when thinking about that, which is really interesting when you think about everything I just said with this one. And I feel like it's just going to continue getting interesting because we've got this one and this one. Now this reminds me of a motif that I have in my artwork of tendrils. And tendrils are appendages on plants. Like when plants are reaching out, searching for support. And they're reaching out for support from other species. They send out tendrils that like move and feel around for different things to attach themselves to then spread the rest of the body of the plant. And that's a common theme or a common motif in my artwork that I'm finding lately, or that has been present for several years, because in this painting here, you can't see it in the shot, but at the very top of the painting, there's, oh no, in the foot there's a tendril right there, boom. The roots of the tree kind of reach out and wrap around my foot here. At the very top, there's that same sort of wrapping of the branches. In this painting, this newer painting that I did towards the end of 2024, that's a big theme, or that's a big image, motif in the image. So this isn't surprising either that this is kind of what's come. And then this, the little frog person, which is connected to a painting that is in the very early stages. And the idea with this sort of imagery that I intend to put in the painting stems from a particular moment that I had while I was giving birth that I don't really know how to explain. It just feels like something that needs to be put in imagery. So I'm gonna move on to the next 10 minutes before I get lost in thought about giving birth. All right, so I'm done with markers. As much as I wanted to continue using my markers, 10 minutes is all I allotted myself. Next is crayon. I have a respect for crayons and I use them every day at work, but have I ever used them in my personal artwork and felt really good about it? I don't think so. But I wanted to use crayons, one, because they're just a classic art material. I knew that I would be resistant to using it in my artwork, right? Like, this is not my first choice of material. But also, I really like the idea of a wax resist effect, right? Like if you draw with crayon, which is a waxy material, and then you paint over it using water, the water can't seep into the paper where the wax is covering, so it creates like a resistant, it's just a resistant process. It's an interesting process. It's an interesting experience to try and paint over crayon and the crayon just not allow the paint to go through. And I like the idea of the resistance that I feel in this process kind of playing out with the materials itself. The crayons are also softer. So I said in the beginning that I was going to be using the most restrictive material to the least restrictive material. And what I mean by that is like, how fluid is the material? How much can you manipulate the material? How much can you move it around a space? Right, like a pen or a pencil, it's very pointed. The material itself is a point, and you can draw lines with that point. Now, depending on the softness of your pencil, you can like blend the graphite, but even still, you're starting with a point, and that in itself is very sharp, it's very restrictive, it's very specific. Versus a crayon, it's waxy, it breaks apart, it's literally flaking on my paper. You can blend it together with different colors. It's less restrictive than a pencil. And then you have to think about paint. Like, you have to use water or some sort of fluid substance with a pigment for paint to even exist. And you could slosh that around, you could slap that around, you could rub that, swipe that, brush it around. You could, like I explained earlier, kind of use like a pointed brush, a very tiny brush, and be very tight in the way that you paint. But, for this process, I will be using a fat brush. I'll be using a brush that'll allow me to be less restrictive with the process. I'm gonna do it, okay? I'm gonna make myself do it anyways. Make myself exercise in this process. I wonder what the crayon boxes are looking like nowadays, because all I have is this, 16 pack with all the basic colors, but I wonder what like the jumbo packs are looking like. Y'all remember the jumbo pack of crayons with the sharpener on the back? Oh my god. I need to get one of those. The jumbo pack of crayons with the sharpener on the back, and the same thing with the color pencils. I don't really like color pencils like that. Stop saying that, Jasmine. I'm gonna get myself some fresh Crayola products. Unless Crayola wants to sponsor me. I miss that. That's how I even got to here, to this moment in time, is classic Crayola art materials, elementary school art materials. That's how we got here. There is no painting without colored pencil. There is no painting without a crayon. There is no linoleum block print without a pencil, without a marker. The use of crayons is also like kind of cathartic, like the amount of pressure that I have to put. I'm using my muscles. I'm using my muscles in a way that I haven't all day, all week. I use my muscles, right? Like I gotta pick the baby up and I gotta pick my bags up and I gotta pick materials up. Sometimes, you know, I have to help with transport of students and, you know, there takes some muscle work. It takes effort, physical effort to do those things, but those are very like large movements and this is very fine-tuned. We're talking about fine motor skills. Where are we at? 1:45. One thing that I like to do with my students too is like both the use of the hands, right? We need a bigger piece of paper for that, but we get a big piece of paper, tape it to the table, and you get a material in each hand. And I start with most restrictive to least restrictive with this activity too. But like I'll say, okay, go get 2 different color markers. And you get 2 different color markers, you put one in each hand, and you start drawing on the paper, and you go zigzag and up and down and side to side and round and crazy movement, and move your body, and we just go. And then we'll go from, you know, color pencil to marker to crayon, and then eventually we'll start with the paint too, and it's a pretty fun exercise to get them to just kind of get them moving their body and playing with the materials and not so focused on being judged by anybody. I typically do that in the beginning of the school year, kind of loosen them up. It's a pretty good icebreaker. Should probably do that again as we close out the school year. I think it'd be fun. Maybe I'll do that when I get back to work on Monday. I'm low-key stressed. I also do the yearbook at school and I have to get that done. All right. Crayons are done. 10 minutes of crayons and we're done. I liked that. I have to admit, I did indeed like that crayon experience much more than I anticipated. Okay, what is next? We did pencil. No, we did pen. We did marker, we did crayon. Next is gouache. So I am gonna use paint. I've got my little gouache paint set here. Boom. All right, but first, let me show you. What are we seeing? What is this? I don't know. What is this? Interesting. This like reddish pinky color, that raspberry crayon color is throwing me off. It's a little bold. It like really pops. And I don't necessarily think that I wanted it to pop. Let me look at these messages. Hey, Brittany's life. Proco, resisting perfection is an admirable goal. Makes sense to work that way. I hope you get some fun results. Thank you. So far, I'm getting some fun results. I'm really quite impressed with this experience so far, and I feel like I need to do this more often. So thank you for that. Let's see. We're gonna head out, but good luck with different tools. We hope you get the Crayola sponsorship. Yes, thank you. I hope I do too. I need that. We need the crayons, we need the markers, we need the color pencils, we need the paint, we need the air dry clay. We need whatever else they got. If anybody has any connections to Crayola, send them this clip. All right, so that's the first one. I don't really know what to say about the imagery itself. All I really have to say is that this like pinky purple color is bold, it's popping, it's throwing me off a little bit as to what my brain was expecting, but that is okay. And that is part of the process. And I accept it as such. This one, tendrils. I think black was a bold choice to go on the third material. I've got 2 more to go. And so I'm curious to see what the gouache is going to do on top of the black. It's quite dark already. I will say, honestly speaking, I am quite bothered by this spot right here. So this spot was initially created by the marker because I chose a green marker and the ink color didn't match the plastic of the marker, and so this dark spot here is really just bothering me. It's bothering me. But that's part of the process. Did I say that already? It's just so bold and dark. I feel like, I don't know, it just really ruins it for me. It ruins it for me, but I take that back. It doesn't ruin it. It just creates a sense of resistance that I am going to continue working through. What do we see here? I originally said blastocyst, nothing has changed. I did the green, 2 rings of green around each little star shape. I don't think I added much to this one, so it hasn't really changed much. I don't really have anything different to say. Yeah, and then this one, I used the brown crayon in the seams of these little pocket spaces, and then I used the white crayon to create these, like, I wanted them to look like orbs. That's kind of what I was thinking and going for. You can't see it, obviously. It'll show up in the paint, but I was thinking orbs, circles, kind of floating. I liked the idea of them floating within these spaces. So we'll see. I have my gouache paint set here. Mind you, when I originally bought this like 4 years ago, it was all wet paint. But it's dried up since, so it's gonna take some water. It's going to take me getting these really wet, but I'm gonna start the 10 minutes. Boom. Where do I begin? You see what I mean? Look. Oh man, I wish I had a different camera setup so that you could see. Okay, so when I brush the paint on the paper, the crayon, the wax of the crayon resists the paint. Do you see that? How cool! I love that. I love that. That was a good choice, Jasmine. Good choice to use the crayons. The other thing with most restrictive to least restrictive, I felt like I was missing this point in the beginning and I couldn't remember it, but now it's come to me, is that paint is much harder to control. That's the point of what I was saying earlier. Like unless you're using like a super tiny brush and you know you've got the hand control of, I don't know, who has good hand control? But paint, generally speaking, is hard to control. Fluid is hard to control. And that's what makes using it in an exercise like this so impactful, or you know, it definitely forces the release of control. I feel like this needs darkness. I think it needs darkness. Black is such a strong color, especially with gouache. It's like ink, like squid ink. But I'm feeling like there's a level of darkness that needs to come through in this. See, in this black and dark blue coming through with the wax resist. Oh, it's so satisfying. I need to use crayon more often. I really do. Okay. I don't want to run out of time for the other ones, but I feel like this needs this. I feel like it needs this. Go, 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 go. See, that feels like too much. Y'all want to see my paint rag? This is an artwork in itself. Okay. Now this, the tendrils one. The tendrils is really stumping me. Stumping me. It's really stumping me. But I'm feeling like, let's see. Oh my God. Look. The wax resist is doing it for me. I really just want a wash of paint all over this. think I'm gonna get to that last one. "45 seconds. I can get to it. I can get to it. I can do it." I'm thinking too much about it. That's the problem, is that I'm so bothered by it that I'm so resistant to doing anything else to it because I'm so bothered by oh, it's so annoying. Like, I'm annoying myself feeling that way. I feel like I'm scribbling with the paint. Like, I don't really have any rhyme or reason as to what I'm doing with this. All right, paint is done. How are you feeling, Jasmine? I'm feeling like this has been a fun experience. I'm feeling like I need to do this more often, and perhaps maybe just like 10-minute boom, 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 boom exercises. I gotta get a sketchbook. I gotta get like a paint sketchbook so I can do this before I work on my projects that need more attention, that need very specific things. I feel like this is a good exercise to loosen me up, to then be in a very creative flow state for the projects that I really need to focus on and want to focus on and give my full attention to. I feel satisfied with this. I feel happy. I feel glad to be here. This feels good. But we've got one more material to go. We've done pen, marker, crayon, gouache. Next is oil pastel. I feel like I need to let these dry a little bit. And oil pastel is going to be the last one. And we're going to see what happens and call them done. Yeah, I'm feeling good. Miriam says purple. Purple onion. Yeah. Purple onion. Seeds. Like, that's what I keep going back to. They look like seeds. Perhaps eggs. I said they look like onions to me in the beginning, and that purple color definitely adds to that idea. I wonder the lighting. Does this make it better? I feel like I need to move my iPad here, but all of my paint is right here. Look at this. I need to get a better setup so that I can have the lighting, but that's where we're at. The wax resist looks sick through the paint. I love that. This one is the one that I had the strongest feeling about, like just an intuitive feeling that I needed to bring darkness into this. Like the pink was really vibrant. The pen line is really bold. The green was bright and kind of illuminating these blue star blastocyst shapes. But like I needed it to be within a dark space. I don't know, that's just how I was feeling and that's what I wanted to do. And I like the way the black overlaps onto the green crayon. I like the way that worked out. And then this one. I don't know. This one's a little strange to me. I don't really have anything to say about this one. The orb effect that I was trying to get with the white crayon is not how I imagined it to be. It's quite unsatisfactory. if I'm being honest. I like this shape down here that I got with the crayon is satisfactory. I wish that the other ones kind of looked like that, but I think the timing, like this one up here I like, but the paint got through to the paper, so the crayon doesn't push through as much as I wanted it to. But these two at the bottom, that's kind of what I was going for. Almost like an orb is the vibe, but with like a kind of spiralized body. I don't know. That's what I was going for there. There's that one. So we've got 10 more minutes. The last one is going to be oil pastels. The last material is going to be oil pastels. And then we're going to call this done. And I'm going to do my live stream for members. So if you want to be a member and you want to come and hang out with me more and get a little bit deeper and talk a little bit, deeper about things, especially with motherhood. Oh, I have so many things to say all the time, but become a member and come and join me. And yeah, Miriam, you say, is there supposed to be a skeleton in the orb picture? So it wasn't supposed to be a skeleton, but that brings up a funny point because I had a dream recently that very much has to do with the skeleton. So I originally was supposed to be drawing, or I originally intended to draw a person, perhaps a woman, and then it just got really weird and frog-like and I ran out of time, and that's what it ended up being. You're asking if it's a skeleton. I didn't intend for it to be a skeleton, but is it a body? It's definitely a body. Is it alive? I don't know. But that's an interesting question, and it brings back a memory of a dream that I had. It was like late last week, sometime last week, I had a dream that my skeleton was living its own life outside of my body. So I was alive, I was well, I was living my life, but my skeleton was also, it existed outside of my body and was living its own life. And I was actively avoiding it. Everywhere I went, I was like consciously avoiding seeing my skeleton. And at some point in the dream, I did see my skeleton. And it was like, it loved me so much, it could not get enough of me. It was like all over me, like, oh my God, I'm so glad to see you, Jasmine. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. It was like hugging me, kissing me. Like, it was so happy to see me and wanted to be with me. But I was so resistant to it. I was like, get away from me. Like, I don't want to be touched. I don't want to be seen by you. I don't want to hang out with you. It was just like me being resistant to myself, like the core of myself. I don't know, the structure of myself. What does that mean? What does it mean to be resistant to a part of myself? Like the skeleton of myself. The bare bones of myself. You know what I mean? That's I've been thinking about that a lot lately. That was a dream I had last week that's been stuck on my mind. I wrote about it in my journal. And perhaps, I was not intending for this to be a skeleton, but you asked if it was a skeleton. And it connects to this dream. It connects to this idea of accepting myself, seeing myself, wanting to be myself, resisting myself for whatever reason. So I don't know. It's a weird one. But 10 minutes with oil pastels is last but not least. So cheers to this experience. I'm going to start my timer. 10 minutes on the clock. And here we go with oil pastel. Now, I've had a lot to say. I've had a lot to say about pen and pencil. I've had a lot to say about markers. I've had a lot to say about crayons. I've had a lot to say about the paint. I've had a lot, and I have a lot to say about oil pastels. Oil pastels and chalk pastels I avoid, right? Like I brought these out earlier and I was like, oh, I've only ever used one of these and I wonder how long I've actually had them, right? I avoid. I'm resistant to using them. Excuse me. Why? Because they're a fluid material, they can be blended. They're also very sensory, right? Oftentimes people smudge with oil pastel. It's an oil based product, it moves fluidly. You can rub it, you can blend it. And I don't like that sensory experience. I don't like the feeling of the oil slickness, the stickiness almost. I don't like the idea of using my fingertips to blend out the colors. I don't like it. It's just a personal preference. It's just a sensory thing that I don't particularly like. And I don't like it even more with chalk. Like the dryness of chalk, yuck, get it away from me. The dryness of chalk, the powdery residue, like it's just very messy. I don't like the feeling on my hands. Not into it. I'm not into it. Thank goodness I don't have any chalk pastels here because I probably would have been like, I'm going to force myself to use it in this exercise today. And you would hear me complain about it and be resistant to it and be like, I don't like this. Now, I will say, with all that being said, I'm enjoying the blending of the colors right now. I'm still resistant to using my fingertips, but I'm enjoying seeing what it's doing. However, it's like picking up the last color of pastel that I put down. So like you can see the crusties here, and there's like crusties flaking off the paper. I don't like that. I don't like that. But we're gonna continue. We're gonna let this be what it is. I need like a scrap. I don't want to put this here, but I like the texture that it's creating on the paper. I don't necessarily like the texture that it would give my hands if I was to actively touch it and rub it, but I like the texture that it's creating on the paper. I can appreciate that. Now, again, I'm at a little loss. I'm at a loss about this purple onion egg seed one. It's feeling It's feeling unaligned. The idea is there, but the imagery feels unaligned. I don't know what to make of that. Does it really matter? I don't think so. I don't think it has to matter. And that's the other problem that I have when it comes to making artwork, is like I feel like every mark I make, everything that I add to an artwork is supposed to have some sort of deep meaning about it. Like it has to mean something if I'm adding it to the artwork. It has to be relevant in some way. It has to, I don't know, it just has to make sense to me. And if it doesn't make sense, it shouldn't be on the paper, it shouldn't be on the canvas. And that's very limiting also. Like perhaps a color can just be a color, perhaps a shape can just be a shape, perhaps the thing that translated from my brain to my body and came out of my fingertips with the material I was using can just exist as it is. Let it just exist. Okay, just let it exist. Resist, just let it exist. Resist, resist, just let it exist. Oh goodness. And all of a sudden I feel better about that. All of a sudden I feel better about this tendril one. Ugh. That still bothers me. How can I fix that? Should I fix that? Does it matter? Just let it exist. Just let it exist. I'm done. I finished. I'm done. I don't really know what to say. Part of me is like, wow, the oil pastel really did add a lot. I feel like the layer of oil pastel is very thick on top of everything else, given the material and the pigmentation. And so it feels like a very heavy, the paper all of a sudden feels heavy. The imagery feels heavy in weight, not necessarily like emotionality or meaning or anything, just the weight feels heavy. It's odd. It's very odd. All right, let's do a quick review. I've done pen, marker, crayon, gouache, oil pastel. 10 minutes each, 4 different papers, doing my best to go with the flow. And this is what I've got. This is what I've got. Let me get these crumbles off. Here's the first one. Our seed, vulva, egg, purple onion. This is where we're at. I don't know. It's so very different. It's so strange. I'm gonna move my iPad so that hopefully I can give you a better view of these things. Let's do this. Let's see. Oh, well, that's not good. I can give you a better view of what I've got here. Let me move my computer. Oh my god, I'm so dusty. Don't judge me. All right. Is that any better? There we go. What do we think? I will say, when I added the red, I was like, ooh, that's kind of bold. I don't know. I kind of had that thought with the pinky purple crayon around the onion shapes. And so when I added the red, I was like, oh, that's a lot. That's kind of heavy. I don't really know how I feel about that. It just feels like a bit much. And then I added black and I was like, oh, that doesn't really help the situation. It's big and bold and dark. And then I went over it with the white, and that white really blended it together and kind of, it muted the black, it muted the red, and I think it did something to the piece as a whole that I feel satisfied with. I don't necessarily like it. I like that I did it. I like that I persevered through the process, that I pushed through the discomfort, that I exercised my brain with different materials. So I'm satisfied in that way. I'm curious to kind of give this space, like take my eyes off of it for a while and come back to it later and see what I see. So here's the first one. Here is, let's go with this, the second one. Now, I really like this. I think the colors work. I think the shapes work. The blending works. I like this one a lot. I like it a lot. What do you think? What do you see? I still see blastocysts. I still see like cell organisms. I don't know. This feels normal and natural to me. This feels typical of me. You can see the texture. of the oil pastels. That's so funny. All right, here's the tendril one. Boom. I'm okay with it. I feel better about it. There's like crumbs. There's oil pastel crumbs. That's something that I don't like. I don't like the oil pastel crumbs at all. The blue one looks like starfish to me. Yeah, starfish. Starfish, underwater. It's giving underwater deep sea creature vibes. The unknown of the underworlds and the ocean. Yeah. Yeah. This, tendrils, it's giving tangled, like it's very clearly tangled looking. Comments. Is there supposed to be a skeleton in the orb picture? Looks cool. Maybe parts. Oh, hold on. Maybe parts of you are still hiding and you need to love all of those parts of yourself. Yes, absolutely. It's a process. It's a process. Here's that one though with the skeleton body. Undone, unfinished body hiding in the depths of whatever these pockets are. The orbs, I brought the orbs back to life with the oil pastel. I felt like I needed there to be a brightness kind of shining through, you know? Because there's no way, like this body is in this space and there are other spaces that could hold another body or the same body, like perhaps it could move to different spaces, but there doesn't necessarily seem to be a way out. And the orbs kind of feel like different points of light showing where there's a way out. I don't know, that's kind of how I interpret it. That's what I'm feeling. I wonder, I want to see them all together. I can see them all together on the table, right? But I want to show them all together. So here's two. Boom. Right, let me push this back. We got two here. And then we got these two. So what do they look like all together? What do they say when they're all together? And then does the order matter? I don't know. I tried not to take any preferences for the order in which I worked on them, but there's those two. And then there's these two. I don't know. And I am okay with not knowing. That's all part of this exercise for me, is just letting myself be free in the process. So that's what I got today. That's what I did today with my time and my energy, and I'm happy with it. I feel satisfied. So let me know what you think. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. Miriam, you say I like them all. I think they all give a spiritual vibe. Yeah, that tends to be the vibe that I give unintentionally in my artwork. It's very spiritual, very intuitive, very, I don't know, it feels like it comes from the depths of me. All of my artwork feels like it comes from the depths of me, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And this exercise in itself allowed the unconscious parts of me to kind of flow to the top and bubble to the top and be released in this artwork. And that's what I wanted. That's what I intended. And I'm finding that in this process tonight, I realize that I need to do this more often, and that I think that this would be very helpful for my creative process with my more detailed artworks, but even helpful for you at home if you just need a minute to unwind, need a way to create without thinking too much about it. Just give yourself 10 minutes. 10 minutes! With a box of crayons, 10 minutes with a box of markers, and see what happens, and see if you can find any connections to your daily life, your past, your present, or perhaps what you want for yourself in the future. So I think I'm done here. I feel really satisfied. I feel really good. And I'm gonna close this out here now. So thank you again. I appreciate you for being here. Appreciate you for supporting me and encouraging that Crayola sponsorship. All right, y'all have a good night. Bye.